Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, NMRA.
You're muted, Jim.
We really do appreciate you joining us this evening. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the show. We've got a lot of talented people for you to meet this evening. And we hope you'll come back again next week and see some more of our shows, as well as tell your friends to join us. We have a lot of YouTube videos, a little bit over 800 now on our New Tracks Modeling channel on YouTube. And if you watch the show on YouTube or watch any of our videos, you will see that we have advertisements that YouTube places in front of them and so forth. And if you like those advertisements or like the products that they're advertising and watch them, then YouTube pays us a small amount of money for that. And that's one way that we raise money to pay for the out-of-pocket cost for our shows. So we hope you do that, as well as we have a Patreon account. If you can provide $1 here or there, we would appreciate that too. Well, first, before I start any further, I'd like to introduce Father Ron Walters for our evening prayer. Father Walters.
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and the beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and the artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father Walters. We appreciate it. Well, I've got a few announcements before we start. First of all, I'm looking for somebody who wants to do a build-along. You can pick the manufacturer and I'll contact them to get the model that you want to build. But I'm looking for somebody maybe that hasn't done one before. It wouldn't be able to be started until June, maybe first part of July, but certainly in June would be the earliest. They normally would run for 4 weeks, 15 minutes a time to build the model and to be able to answer the questions of people who may have trouble building the model and want to build it along with you. So if you're interested in doing one of our build-alongs as the builder on our show, my email is jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com, and I'd love to hear from you because we up until then, our shows are pretty well booked, but I'd really appreciate hearing from you for that kind of a segment of our shows that would start in June. Just let me know that you're interested. If you can, let me know the manufacturer and the model that you'd like to build on the show, and then I'll get in contact with you and we'll take it from there. Also, I want to thank personally Martin Breckbilt, MMR. Martin is the editor of O-Scale Trains and has been awfully helpful to the show in publishing in his magazine the events that are scheduled for each one of our shows during the upcoming months. And I really appreciate that. He didn't have to do it, and it's something that I think is good for the show, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much, Martin, for your help. I also want to mention that I don't know whether anyone is attending the Association of Professional Model Makers convention that's going to be March the 3rd through the 6th in Dayton, Ohio. But we will be represented there. One of our banters advertising our scholarship will be there, as well as information about the scholarship. We hope that if you're attending, that you'll come by and say something about seeing the banner there and about the scholarship, and hope that you'll be able to attend that show. It was awfully nice of them to give us the capability to participate in their show. And I want to thank them publicly for letting us do that. I also want to thank Amherst Show. They're giving us a table and space for our banner and so forth, and for people. The show in Timonium, both of the shows, the one in February as well as the one in April, have allowed us to come and participate and have a table and be able to have our banner there. Al Judy's show in later in April will be there. And, you know, the Alan Littlefield show or gathering, whatever you want to call it. I've talked to Alan and we'll be participating with him. So a lot of the shows around the country, Hank Primas has a show, Piedmont Division is having a show that we'll be at. So I'm really encouraged that the train shows are coming forward and want to be able to be helpful and talk about our scholarship and let us talk about it in order to encourage model railroaders, young model railroaders that are getting out of high school and wanting to go to college to apply for our scholarship. So I think that's wonderful. That's exactly what we were hoping for. A lot of publications from different organizations have agreed to publish an article that I have written, as well as publish photos of our banner and so forth, and the information about our scholarship in their publications for us. And I really appreciate that. It helps so much to be able to get the message out. And again, this is our first year, so this is going to be the toughest year. It was to raise money, but we did that very easily. And it is to get applicants, but we think that we'll be successful in doing that. So yeah, I thank everybody for their help and for their assistance. And if you know of a high school that might be interested in their students finding it out, they'll be happy to disseminate it, because we have high schools that are doing that for us. The same with colleges. One college that I contacted that's in the county that I live in was very gracious about wanting the information. It's as if the scholarship information isn't being disseminated to those organizations, and I don't know why. So if we can do it to get the applicants from those schools, then I think that's what we ought to concentrate on. We have our modeling lifestyle coming up tomorrow night, not tomorrow night, on January the 19th with Dan Walsh. And Alan Littlefield is going to be with him, and John Weigel is going to join him. And we have our rehearsal for that show tomorrow. But I'm really looking forward to that, because Dan is such a fantastic modeler, and I think you're really going to enjoy visiting with him.
Join the modeling lifestyle at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on January 19th, where we will feature the modeling lifestyle of Dan Wolskin. Dan is an on-30 modeler and creates amazing scenes and dioramas.
I love the sound of a whistle.
And now I'm going to go into my begging mode again. We desperately need help in running our show. Right now we have 2 people doing all of the production for our show, and we need at least 1 more, if not 2 more. It's not an impossible thing to do, but we need help doing it, because there's only so much that 2 people can do. And right now we're down to 2. We had 2 people leave us, and now we're down to 2 people in effect producing the shows, and we need more help. So if there is any way that you can feel comfortable learning what has to be done, that part of it is no problem. Phil can certainly help give you the education that you're going to need on what's involved, but we just need some help. So I really would appreciate it if you would give some thought to helping us. And if you can, my email is jimkello at newtracksmodeling.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Upcoming build along, you've heard me talk about them before. We have Banner Models, which starts on the 25th of January. Atlantis Model starts February the 22nd, as does Rockin' Farm Toys. So we have some different ones for you, some different kinds of build-alongs, but I hope you enjoy them. I hope you participate. I hope you want to build the models along with the people that are on the show building them. And most of the people building these are the manufacturers that produce them. All of them have good discounts for you, and the information is on our website in detail. Our next My Build starts January the 18th. That's next week. And Chris Forrest is the host for that. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Unfortunately, I'm on a different computer, so I don't have a slide tonight. But if you would like to participate in the My Build, please drop me an email and include those photos. And if you have not participated in the past, send a photo of yourself. And whoa, I went to go to the chat and it did something weird. All right, so I'm putting it in the chat right now. So like I said, if you're interested in participating in the My Build, my email address will be in the chat. So I'll turn it back over to you there, Jim. Oh, and by the way, for those that are attending Amherst, the New Tracks tables will be in section 64 of the BLC building.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. And Chris is the one that's taking the banner for us up there. So Chris, thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. But I hope that a lot of you will send some information about what you're building and photos to Chris, because we need to have a lot of you. Show what you're modeling. It encourages other people to try to do things maybe they haven't done before. Just to see the photos that you're working on and what you've accomplished. So if you can see your way clear to do that and send it to Chris, then we'll take a look at it next week and go from there. Well, now let's start the show. And the first person I want to introduce is Hank Primas, who does our quick tips. So Hank, I know you've been away for a few weeks trying to clean up after a tree fell on your house. But I'm very happy that you're back, and I hope your house is still standing.
Well, the house is still standing, somewhat. It was a 30-inch tree, 30-inch diameter tree that fell through the house, so it did a lot of damage. But moving on, the tip, let's see if I can do this correctly. Where'd it go? Okay, let's try it again. Okay. What I want to do is actually something that Gary Shurgold showed you a couple weeks ago about a microbrush and using that microbrush to make a light on a vehicle.
We don't see anything, Henry.
What's that?
We don't see anything.
Okay, I did something wrong here.
You clicked on it, but if you click it twice, maybe it'll come up.
Henry,
Yeah.
did you share? Why don't you stop sharing?
There we go.
And now share again. Click share screen,
Share screen.
and then pick the upper left. The upper left, the one that says screen.
Okay.
Then we see what you see, because I think we were seeing just your finder.
Okay, now I see.
Okay, you're at the end of the slideshow. Now go back, roll back. There you go.
There you
Cool.
go.
Do we see it now?
Yes,
Okay, I'll get this right eventually. Okay,
you're
But-
doing better than me.
the whole thing is on micro brushes. A couple weeks ago, Gary Shurgold told us how to take a brush and make headlights on a vehicle. Well, this is one of the brushes. Now, of course, this is pink. It's not the green, yellow, or white, which you usually see, because these are the discount brushes that you get on Amazon. I got 500 of them for $6. They don't hold up well, but if you're doing it for a one use, it works fine. But moving on ahead. All right. Now, what you want to do is cut off the tip once you've used it. But as you can see along here, this tip, it's not equal thickness all the way through. So depending on where you cut it, you can get a very fine point or you can get a very thick point. I use these now instead of toothpicks and for all sorts of stuff because I know I can mess it up, throw it away, and have another one coming soon. And what I want to do is, since this was such a short one, I want you to give you one that my buddy Gary Fish gave me the other day. He says, when you go to Chinese restaurants, make sure that you get chopsticks and try to get extra because they are perfect for using reinforcement behind buildings or inside of buildings where you need some extra reinforcement because the walls just don't stand up well. And that's what I got for you.
Can't get much cheaper than that, there. I mean, Hank, you know,
Hey.
that's pretty darn good.
Got to make it cheap.
Absolutely. Well,
And also,
I'm glad your house is still standing and you're back with us.
yeah, well, I'm just fighting with the insurance company. But I do want to mention to everybody that there is the Piedmont Division Model Train Show, March 11th and 12th in Cartersville, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. We're going to have another great show this year. In fact, this year we have a special corral of the craftsman kits. So that's something new we're adding this year. So I'd love to see you all there.
Well, and I thank you so much for showing our banner there. I mean, that was really nice of you, and thank the group for doing that. And I also mentioned that Hank gave me the name of a person. The Piedmont Division has a really great program, I think, for younger modelers, where it'll pay for the full year's membership for a young modeler, as long as the parents agree to bring the young modeler to the events and the meetings and help the young modeler participate. I think that's a wonderful way to try to get young modelers involved in our hobby. And my hat's off to the Piedmont Division for coming up with that strategy. And we'll have the person that runs that, Matt Lyles, on the show next week, and to talk further about this, because I talked to him a little bit today, and I'm really impressed with the way that they're trying to bring the young modeler into the division's activities and into the modeling world. I think that's wonderful. And if it hadn't been for Hank, I'd have never known about it. So Hank, thank you so much.
Well, actually, it's fun because where we meet, the parents can actually sit out in a lounge and look through a glass wall to see all the goings on. And many parents now are starting to kind of come inside because it's too interesting just to sit out and ignore.
Fantastic. Fantastic idea. Thanks so much, Hank. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Now I want to introduce Gary Shurgold, MMR, for our normal bits and pieces. So Gary, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jim. Tonight, we're going to have Jeff Jordan again. Jeff's been on for this will be his third week, which I really appreciate. If any of you out there have some little bits and pieces you'd like to present, like Jeff's been doing, we'd appreciate that. And what I'll do now is turn that over to Jeff.
Thanks, Gary. Let me share screen here and do this. And do this. There we go. Okay. Oh, tonight I'm going to talk about how I quickly painted a batch of wheels. You may recall from a number of weeks ago, I showed how I was upgrading my entire roster of Bachmann ON30 freight cars. And the Bachmann ON30 freight cars come with rather unprototypical, very shiny wheels. And though they actually come, depending on when you bought your car, different varieties of wheels. But this is, I think, the best wheel they come with, but it's much too shiny and needed to do something with that. And I was doing a whole fleet of cars. And though I replaced the wheels on some of them with KD ON30 wheels, that gets a little expensive. And so the question was, could I come up with another alternative? And the answer was, yeah, I figured out a quick way to paint a whole bunch of freight car wheels. So I found this kicking around the house, and with my wife's permission, I took it. It's a Draftsman circle template. And you can see it's just a sheet of plastic with circles cut in it of all different diameters. And by playing around with it, I found one that was almost a perfect fit over the wheel of the Bachmann freight cars, so that I could do this. Just take it, it's in my spray booth, cardboard box, poked a little hole in it so that I could stand up an axle on one end. And then the template, I tape it down at one end so you can just flop it down over the wheel, pick it up, put in the next one. And so the wheel is in place. Give it a shot of flat black spray paint. And there it is. And the beauty of that is I could run through a whole batch because I just put one in, flop that thing down, give it a shot of flat black spray paint, take that axle off. And since the flanges, you can see, are still bright and shiny, you can just set it down on its flange, put the next one in, and run through a whole batch. And then by the time that you've run all the way through, the first one is dry already, so you can bring it back, stick it in, and do the second side. So I ran through 8 cars, 4 axles, 8 cars, 32 axles in no time at all. And they're a decent looking wheel. And now with that flat black on them, they're no longer shiny. They look much more prototypical, dirty, greasy freight car wheel. If you like rusty, use brown or reddish brown paint instead, but it's a quick way to get a whole bunch of weathered freight car wheels very quickly. So that's my simple suggestion. And I'll also throw in that this is not rocket science, guys. I'm sure you all have all kinds of little tips and tricks and kinks that you've developed over the years. Look around your workshop. I'm sure you can provide us with some too.
Well, I'll tell you, that's what makes this hobby so great, because these little, these simple things that we just don't think about, until somebody mentions you and say, oh, yeah, why didn't I do that? And yeah, I can do that. I mean, that's what makes this hobby great. And thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing.
You're very welcome.
I have a question, Jeff, if you're there.
Yeah.
Do you have to clean off the axle ends, the points?
Yeah. A little bit of thinner on a rag, and I just hit the end of the needle axle so that it's not cruddy.
Oh,
but
okay. Thank you.
Just as soon as you're done, just as soon as you lift the template off, you have a rag there that's moistened with it. Rub just the end of the axle point. The rest of it should be fine. And frankly, 1 or 2 of them where it leaked a little bit, I can quickly rub off or scrape off the overspray, but it keeps most of the wheel tread and flange clean without a lot of fancy masking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. Well, now I'd like to move on to introduce you to Bill Bantam, Bantam Model Works. You've met Bill before on our show, but he's going to come back starting on January the 25th to do another build along for us. And tonight, I've asked Bill to talk about his company a little bit and the model that he's going to build and what might be involved in it and what you might need to know to be able to build it along with him. So Bill, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to do Duncan's boots. I think you saw a picture of it at the beginning of the show.
Right.
Basically, if you built one of our kits before, it's pretty much the same thing. We build up the interior box, add the siding to it, paint, windows and doors, roof, add some signs, and you're ready to go. So
it's really not rocket science is what you're trying to say.
Pretty much, yeah. They're easy kits to build. It's you know, again, it's not rocket science, it's easy stuff. So if you can paint and put glue on, hey, you got the kit done already. So
what do you think the hardest part might be for a beginning modeler build to build this kit?
probably deciding what color to paint it.
Got it. Got it. You have a suggestion on that color?
I don't go through and lead you through painting and so forth on the kits, but there is a color photograph that comes with it, showing what I've done to the model. Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's basically the sides of the building are just a weathered black stain. We've got white and some dark green on there and glue on the signs. It's a really simple kit to build, comes out really nicely. The signs are included, they're paper signs. The boot hanging over the front, that's laser cut on some laser board. So you just got to paint that and hang it. It's virtually, sprinkle a little water on the kit and there you go. So,
anybody have any questions for Bill? Well, as I say, Bill will start building this kit on the 25th of January on our show. And if you have not bought the kit yet, I encourage you to do that. And how to do it and the discount and so forth are available on Bill's website. And it's a great looking little building. I mean, it's as Bill says, it's not rocket science to build it. So if you've never built a kit before, this might be a great one to try out. If you've built a lot of them, this might be a fun project just to see, just to add something to your model. So Bill, thanks so much for doing this for us. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, okay, we'll try to do it a little bit differently than I did the caboose kit, because there seem to be periods of dead silence while I'm putting parts together. So we'll try something different here. Maybe it, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I like to show people, how it's being done. And as easy as it is, without trying to put a bunch of photos up that don't necessarily explain what we're going to do. So we'll see. I got a week or so before I got to figure it out, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you'll do a great job. I mean, you did a great job on the booth, and
I'll try to show up on time too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Bill. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, now I want to introduce you to another person that you may know. His name is Phil Edholm. And Phil does the local clubs and NMRA divisions for our show. And Phil, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Nice turn to meet off. Thanks, Jim. Well, this evening we have actually a very interesting guest, Scott Perry. And so, Scott, I'm going to bring you up here and add you in. And Scott and I are going to talk a bit about his role and kind of what things he's done in terms of the Piedmont division and where they're going. And Again, as always, what we try to do in talking about NMRA local divisions and clubs is to understand, what exciting things is an organization doing that can be used by other groups around the country, either to get new members, to help their members mentor, et cetera. So, Scott, why don't you talk off and tell us a little bit about your division, your role in the division, and kind of where you guys are and are going. Scott, I think I have to unmute you. You should be. There, you're unmuted. Oh, maybe not. I mean, it's a mic issue. Nope. No, try now. Nope. Click on the little arrow to the right of the mute button and see which, down at the bottom left where the mute is, right to the right, there's a little up thing. Click on that and see which microphone you're using.
Try this one.
There, that's good. That's good.
Perfect.
The beauty of technology.
Ah, we love it. I'm on like these kind of calls all day long with 5 different systems, and every time I use one, it throws something off. Thanks for having me on, Bill. Appreciate it. I've been with the NMRA since I was 14 years old. I'm 58 now, so it's been way too long. But I'm proud to be back with the Piedmont Division. I've been a part of 3 different regions and 4 different divisions because I travel for work and have moved quite a few times. But glad to be here with my friend Hank, who's also on tonight. And he's told you a little bit about our division. But the Piedmont Division is the Atlanta, North Georgia division. We've been rocking and rolling for a long time. We've done very, very well. It's a very cohesive group. My best friends are Piedmont Division NMRA members. So I'm glad to be with them. We got hit very hard with COVID. We lost 24% of our membership, 84 members, to various things due to COVID. And so I volunteered to be the director of personnel, which is membership director, to help bring back the members. I've done this kind of work before in the Northern Utah division out in beautiful Utah. We've rebuilt that division using a lot of the techniques that I'm using here. And one of the things I was glad to report at our division meeting yesterday is that we've signed on 10 new members in the last 30 days.
Are those new members, or are they returning of the ones that left?
They are not re-rails. These are brand new members.
Brand new members. Wow.
Some of them are brand new to model railroading. They've gotten their Christmas set, or they have some things, and they're retiring. Some of them are retiring. So they're all from different levels. One is a really smart young fellow that's 13, 14 years old that I met at one of our introduction things at our booth that we have at different shows. And he was so fired up, he had to join immediately. So he brought along his grandfather and father. So all 3 of them are now new members with our group. So we have a program that we call Renew, Re-Rail, Retain. Recruit and retain. So Renew, we make sure that we don't lose anybody. So we are actively going through our roll every time we get it from the NMRA every month to make sure that if somebody's coming up on their dues that they are paying, and if they're not going to pay or they're not renewing, that I personally contact them and find out, hey, what are the benefits that you're using, and let's find out the ones you're not using. Benefits are very, very important. There's the NMRA benefits, like our partnership program. I paid off my dues using the partnership program by June of 2022, just in the discounts that I was getting. So it really does work. Thank you, everybody at Tichy Train Group, where I spent enough to buy somebody a new machine. But I love using those. But we have our own benefits in our division as well. We have one of the largest train shows in the Southeast that you can go to. We've done other programs. We had, matter of fact, we restarted a program last night called our Division Library. We have over 300 books in our Division Library, and those are available for any member to check out. And we have, I mean, these aren't just generic books. They're signed copies, some limited editions, some fantastic things. We also have a DVD library as well. So we have all these programs that we're revitalizing that kind of drifted away during COVID when people couldn't show up to meetings. So renewal is, to me, the easiest thing to do to make sure that you're not losing members that you worked so hard to gain.
Yep.
The next one is re-railing. We lost 84 members through COVID. So we are trying now to re-rail them. Most people don't really understand this when I say it, but we are not about model trains. We're about people. This is a people operation. This is a people thing. We're friends with each other. We're, we're learning from each other. We're growing with each other. And I'm trying to bring this sense of people to our division and to everybody else in the NMRA, that people are what's important. And they want to be a part of this when they have a real people connection. So driving that force through it and trying to re-rail people, hey, look, you're missing out on the benefits. You're missing out on the friendships. You're missing out on train shows. You're missing out on all these things that we do together. The next part, of course, is recruiting, bringing in new members. One of the things that I've been telling everybody, Bill, we are in the golden age of model railroading. If you know Lionel Strang, he says we're all going to be, it's going to explode. We're all going to be covered in railroad goo. It is getting bigger, and it's getting more and more exciting, and people are interested. So at every train show, every museum event, everything that we can get our booth in to recruit people, we're doing. We bring along model railroads with us, so we have display layouts that generate conversation. And, we can take your money and sign you up on the spot. But mostly what we're trying to do is bring you into some of our meetings, introduce you to like-minded people. So if you're an N-scaler and you're in the 1950s, we have at least 24 people that are doing that kind of thing. So we'll put you in touch with them and build those bonds and build those friendships, get them active in the division, doing a job, doing some kind of support thing, so they even meet more people, and then locking them into that one main benefit that we all know about but can't explain most of the time, is friendship. So that's what we're doing to drive it. And then the very last part of the 4 R's is retain, making sure that everybody stays. You're happy with what we're doing, the benefits, you know about them, and you're using them. You're making friends. You're going to other people's houses. Hank told you about our Piedmont pilgrimage at one of the other segments, where we had 40 layouts available around Thanksgiving that everybody could go to and see. One of the things that really changed me when I was 12 years old was going and seeing an enormous well-done layout. I didn't know that was really possible. I saw the magazines, but it didn't sink in until I actually saw it. So we're providing that experience for members as well. So that's the program, the 4 R's, renew, re-rail, recruit, and retain, that I'm driving with the Piedmont division that's already brought us 10 members. To regrow our division, I've got to have at least 4 re-railed or new members every month to get us back to where we were in 2 years.
So I know you do the train show and the the layout visits, but what other activities do you guys regularly drive in the division? I mean, do you have regular meetings or?
Yeah, so we have a monthly meeting the second Tuesday of every month. We're online, so if you go to our website, you can see us and you can join us as well. But we have a regular meeting that features a clinic of some type, show and tell, or bring and brag, as we call it. And you can see the book library there. You can get freebies. We give away, last night I gave away a beautiful UP calendar that our superintendent, Perry Lamb, contributed to the group. So we're pretty active there, and we're talking about bringing back some of the other things that we used to do in meetings. We also used to do auctions, so we were kicking that around with a few people tonight. We do what's called training camps. So back in 2003, yeah, I was teaching clinics, and at the meeting I get 45 minutes, and you can teach a little bit of that, but you can't do anything hands-on. It's hard to clean up and do those kind of things. So I thought to myself, well, what we need are long-term clinics where we can bring out real skill building techniques. So I started this program called the Training Camp, which is still running to this day. And these are all-day clinics, long-term clinics, where you can come in. We've done things like learn airbrushing from the very beginning about paints through our actual portable airbrush booths and getting your hands on the airbrushes, painting donated boxcars and things, and then doing the cleanup and everything else. We've done laser kit assemblies. Perry's done them on Fast Tracks fixtures to lay turnouts. We're doing one this year on Arduino clinics. And then we have one for the new folks that are coming in called Model Railroading 101, which we do on February the 4th. There's no charge for that clinic. We don't charge for them actually. You just pay for materials mostly. But the Model Railroading 101 is a hands-on building clinic where a new person can come in and not only ask questions and learn about the basics, but actually put their hands on it. And I've found out over years of doing these things, when I tell them about something, they go home and they go, oh, that was a nice clinic. When their hands go home dirty and they got a model in their hands, they go home and build more. So that's what we're after. So we do those kind of programs as well. And then,
how do you get people to drive those? Do you find that, you know, getting the volunteers, that seems to always be one of the issues, is getting enough volunteers to drive and do those things. How do you get them to come in and volunteer to do it?
We've been blessed with some really good leadership in these. Perry Lamb has been leading those training camps for us for some time now, and we haven't had trouble bringing in very talented people to co-teach. There's usually several teachers in there and a leader. What we do have trouble with are, you know, those jobs that aren't so pretty that people need to do, like setting up for a train show, breaking down for a train show, cleaning up after a clinic, and those kind of things. So right now we are actively, and we used to have that, but through COVID, we kind of lost it. So right now I'm working as the personnel manager to get these people back involved. The 100 or so, or it's almost 300 people that aren't daily involved, get them back in with simple jobs. Just to do our train shows, 100 and something people that we need.
Right.
So you get free admission to the show, you get a job, you get trained, and we bring these people in and we build up their confidence in working with everybody. We're all introverts, Bill. I mean, I'm not, but most all of us are. So getting people to something and talking to other people, sometimes a little bit of a stretch, but that personal touch, the phone call, hey, we need your help specifically for this job, will usually get you the volunteers that you need.
Yep, that's good. That's good. So interesting enough, it sounds like the train show actually for you guys is not only a revenue producer, but it's also a place to kind of get people started in volunteering without taking on a big job that involves a long time commitment. It's like, well, you're going to come to the train show and volunteer, and then it's an opportunity to kind of evaluate people and kind of an on-ramp to volunteerism.
That's true. Identifying future leaders, identifying future dependable hard workers. We do that during the train show, and we just have a lot of fun. I mean, I'm there before it opens and way after it closes 2 days. So are all the other guys. I mean, they're all there. Hank is working himself to death. Jim Travis, who is the other co-manager. But we have a ball, and it's a great time when you can talk to each other. So I'll bring somebody in and let them run our in-scale ambassador layout, we call it, to just show people what we do.
Right.
That generates conversations, me with him with another person. We're lucky to have quite a few women that are in our group and working. We just had a great December holiday party, and that was run by several women that are in the group, and I had a ball and ate too much. So that's what we're doing.
Cool. So one of the things that's interesting is it sounds like your boot camps are kind of a great mentoring activity. Are there other things you do to mentor and help people be successful in their model railroad pursuits?
Yeah, this is a hobby where you really need to learn from other people. I can read books all day, but it takes so much longer to develop. And with friends, you get questions asked. So one of the big things that we have going is we have a lot of operating groups they're all members of our group, but like I belong to the North Atlanta Rail Barons operating group. So we're just a subgroup of the NMRA group. So we work at each other's house. And in fact, there are 4 men downstairs working on our raffle layout for the next train show right now. So they're down there banging around. So when you hear the garage door open, that's what they're doing. But we have the North County Interchange group where they go to each other's house and learn different skills and stuff. And we've got quite a few of these arranged in the thing. I've even gone out to hobby shops and done clinics on site on Saturday mornings to teach people, whether NMRA or not, new skills and how to do things, and then to bring them into the NMRA as well. As a formal mentorship, though, we don't have that yet. And I look at mentorship as something very, very formal coming out of the manufacturing industry. But we are about to launch that, where new members or interested members are put together with somebody that's much more skilled and has similar interests that can teach them, help them with problems. Everybody comes to the NMRA as a new person with questions. They all do. And so last night I was spending some time, a young fellow joined. He wants to learn how to scratch build cars. Well, I took him right over to the guys that were doing the bring and brag. One of them had just built a beautiful G-scale coal car from scratch. I put the two of them together. Already they're best buds and exchanging information. Cool. So we're doing that kind of thing, but it's not formal yet, but it will be.
Excellent. So one of the things is for recruiting. You talked about the trade shows. Are there any other activities you do for recruiting?
The ones that we do mainly are with either shows or events. Like we're doing one with a museum that's got the Museum of Civil War and Locomotive History here in Kennesaw, Georgia, does a presentation on trains, and we will be there. The Tellus Museum, which is a mining and mineral museum and a dinosaur museum, we had several layouts that came and were set up there, and we had our booth there to talk to people about the NMRA. So we signed up 3 people at that one. So we're doing those kinds of things. We're eventually going to start doing some outreach to people through electronic means. We have recently rebuilt our website, and it's phenomenal. The guys have been working heavily on it, and at great expense too. It's not cheap to do it really well. But our Piedmont division, you can see photos and videos of every single layout that was on our program. So we've got those outreaches too. So we've got several things going, and even more ideas in the pocket.
Super. Well, kind of to close, Scott, if there were a couple of unique learnings or things that you think other divisions really could learn from what you've been doing, what would you identify that they are?
The number one, stop thinking we're a model train group and start thinking we're a people group, because that changes your focus to what's really important. Is the guy that's standing in front of you that loves trains as much as you do. And you want to bring them in and enjoy the friendships. It's hard to sell benefits. That's the number 2 one. It's hard to sell the benefit of friendship to somebody when you're standing at a train show. The best way to do that is at a meeting when you're answering questions and you're building some rapport with the individual. So
basically the idea of, and this is an interesting perspective, that when you go to a train show or you're going to an event, make sure you've got an on-ramp event fairly shortly after that to invite people to, where you can get them in a different environment. And that's a good point.
That's hot on, because we've got the Model Railroading 101 showing up at February 4th. So at Christmas time, everybody got a layout. They've been to a few events. They met us. We've invited them and put them into that, whether they're a member or not. They can come, and it costs them nothing, and they get almost a full day with top level modelers. So that brings them in. That helps us outreach to them. It lets them meet some people and make some friends.
Super. Sounds very good. Well, Scott, thank you for spending some time with us. Great ideas. I kind of, from talking to Hank earlier, knew you guys were doing some great stuff. So it was exciting to talk to you, and we will look forward to all the other great things that are coming out of the Piedmont division. Hopefully someday I can get to Atlanta when the airlines when the airlines are able to fly again. It's not really obvious that this is a good time to fly in any way. So thanks again.
Take care. Thank you.
Well, Phil, that was a great discussion. It really was. And the enthusiasm that he has, the leadership that he's providing in that division, it's obvious why they're successful.
Well, and I think it's the other thing that I find very interesting in being in a division where we're really struggling is it becomes really clear that you've got a large cadre of people that are willing to volunteer and do things. And I think getting that going is one of the biggest challenges in a division. Getting people excited about volunteering and about doing things versus just kind of waiting for something to happen. So that was a great point as well.
And one comment that he made, and I agree 100% with this, where you get your volunteers is a personal contact. It's a telephone call. It's not an email. It's not me saying some things on the show. If you're interested, email me. That's not going to get the volunteers. My problem is I don't know the people that would really be interested. If I can find out the people that would really be interested in helping us, I'll call you. I'll do everything I can to make it personal with you. I just don't know who you are right now. So when I ask for you to contact me by email, it's not that I want to deal with it email to email. I want to deal with you individually, one-on-one, but I've got to find out who you are first. So again, my email is jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com, and I'd love to hear from you because we really, really need some help here. Phil, thanks so much.
Thanks much.
All right, now I'd like to turn to Dan Davidson for his workshop, Tools, Techniques, and Tips. Dan, welcome.
I think you mean Bob Davidson, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. I think I do too.
I usually get Dave Robertson. I usually don't get Dan.
No, I apologize. That shows how much of the personal touch I've got.
There you go. Well, let me get going here.
Bob, welcome.
Thank you. Tonight, for workshop tips and tricks, what we're going to be talking about, first off, just to remind folks who maybe weren't here last week, for more than 50 years, I've worked in the theater and exhibit business as a scenic lighting graphic designer, also a carpenter, tech director, production manager. So right now I spend my spare time playing with trains. Tonight's main topic is Let There Be Light, part 1. We're going to come back to this a couple times, but what I wanted to talk about tonight is a couple things that are very critical to us in the exhibit and in the theatrical industries, but it really has application to modelers, and I find that a lot of times we don't pay much attention. So first up, we're going to look at watts versus lumens, and then we're going to talk a little about color temperature and CRI, which is color rendering index, and what that does with regards to color shift. So watts versus lumens, watts basically means nothing now. It's the power used when you turn on the light. Lumens, however, are the light that is generated from a bulb or a lamp, depending on how you want to call it. So a lumen is a unit of light quantity equal to the light on a unit surface, all points of which blah, blah, blah. Basically, 1 lumen is a birthday candle that's 1 foot away from you. And if you want to get real technical, 10.76 lumens equals 1 foot candle. So here's a little chart that I think brings this all home. So if you look at, we have incandescent, halogen, CFL, which is a fluorescent, and then LED. And you can look at the comparative light output and what the wattage input is for each of those. So for example, on a 60-watt light bulb is putting out between 500 and 700 lumens. That's the same as a 50-watt halogen or 11-watt fluorescent or a 5-watt LED. So really what you want to be looking at is looking at lumen output when you're looking at a light source on your layout or in your workshop. And that's kind of why I'm showing this. Color rendering index measures on a scale from 0 to 100 the ability of a light source to accurately reproduce the colors of the object it illuminates. You perceive color by reflection. So light hits an object and reflects its color back to your eyes. If it is a colored light that's hitting the object, it's going to affect how your eyes perceive that color. So as CRI, an index of under 55 is going to be poor. It's going to have poor color rendering. So that would be a warm white light bulb or a candle light or a lantern. Between 60 and 85 is going to be good rendering index, which is a daylight or a cool white lamp. And then between 90 and 100, it will be excellent. And that's what we call a full spectrum light source. So I don't know how well this will transmit over the internet, but if you look on the right half, you see the tomatoes are pretty dull. That's a low color index photograph. So that was lit with a low color index. If you look at the image on the left, how bright the greens and the reds are, that is a higher color index, CRI, okay? So now we just move on to color temperature. So this is the technical standpoint. There is an imaginary metal object, and when you heat it up, it starts to glow. So when you hear color temperature of 2,500 degrees Kelvin or 3,000 degrees Kelvin, it literally refers to the temperature of what's called a black body when it's heated to that temperature. This is the actual scale that it's done on. So you can see here through the arc, this dotted line, dashed line arc, and here you can see 1500 K is very red, 2000 is getting into the warmer, orange, and then it starts to cool off as you get to the higher numbers. So just like a piece of metal, if you heat it with a torch, it glows red, then it glows orange, then it goes blue, then it goes white. So that's what the color temperature numbers mean. It literally is the temperature of an object and what color it gives off. This shows you the real difference here, okay? So if you look at the wall, we're starting on the left at 2700, which is warm white, and you go through 3000 K, 3500, 4000, and 5000. You can see there's an incredible shift in the color of the light, which is going to mean that anything you paint, anything you build, is also going to shift depending upon the color of light you shine on it. Where this becomes a real issue, here's another example of that. Same setting, on the left is lit with a warm white lamp, the middle is a cool white lamp, and on the right is daylight. What this means is that if you paint something and look at it under one light while you're working on it, and then you move it over to your layout, and you're lighting your layout with another color temperature, it's going to look totally different. The way we learn this is a lot of our clients in the exhibit industry have standardized colors. They have what we call PMS colors, which is a printing standard for color identification. And what we learned is we use full spectrum lighting in our shop. When you go onto some of these show floors, they were illuminating them years ago with sodium vapor or mercury vapor lamps, and it was shifting the colors. So it's very important that in your workbench, in your layout, especially in your spray booth, if you have a small spray booth, so many of these ones that you buy that come with lights, they're coming in with these blue lights. It's a blue, very blue cast, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 degree LED light strip inside of it. It's really going to shift your color. So that's the whole point of this thing, is when you need to have consistent lighting throughout the modeling space. Your workbench, your spray booth paint area, and then on your layout itself. So how do you tell? Well, you look at here's a typical lamp, which are label that's on most lamps that you'll buy. It'll list the brightness and lumens. Again, the wattage really means nothing. And then the light appearance between warm and cool. So this is a 2700 degree K lamp. I use 3000 degree K everywhere in my workspace and on my layout. So that's just my choice. It works with the era that I'm doing and the type of models that I'm building. One thing to keep in mind is that when you dim even LEDs, they get warmer. So you want to be looking at your models as close to the light that you're going to be seeing them on your layout as possible as you're working on them. So that's kind of our lighting 101. So look at lumens and look at color temperature and try to keep it consistent inside your workspace. It's going to make a huge difference in your modeling. Tonight's tool of the week, scratch brushes. This will only cost you $15. I know there was concern last week of going broke, but I don't know if I saw these here or saw them on another clinic or something, but these are just really cool. They're like little twist pens. And that kit that I showed, you get 4 different ones. You get a nylon bristle, fiber, brass, and steel. They're really great for distressing small pieces. What's nice about them is you can adjust the length of, as you make the tip longer, they get softer. So, and they're great for cleaning up stuff, and they're just really cool. I use them all the time. And you can just replace the tips. You can buy replacement tips on Amazon. So that's kind of cool. Last week I did the neat website, and I realized I think I improperly shared my screen. So when I shared Rail Photo Art, you didn't actually see the website. So I'm hoping that everybody could actually see the website tonight. Is that up online here? Yes?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, yes.
So here, like I say, I just wanted to show you, this is if you go under the collections, and in the collections, there'll be highlights. And then some of the images in here are just spectacular for research. And there's thousands of these images on this website. So that was last week's, but like I say, I realized I only shared my keynote. I didn't share everything else. So this week's neat website is shapeways.com. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this.
Yeah.
Shapeways is a 3D modeling space on the web. But what's really cool is they have this marketplace. So if you go to shapeways.com, click on marketplace, and then up in search your marketplace, I'm just going to put in HO Railroad. And these are all 3D printed pieces. There's just a lot of detail stuff. All kinds of stuff. Railroad bag, and they give you what the costs are for them. There's just a lot of, but when you get down here, this is page 1 of 256 pages.
Okay.
There is just a ton of stuff. I bought some high bay light, 3D printed high bay lights. This is something I'm going to actually order. These are station benches, which are perfect for the era, the 50s era that I'm looking for up on the subway.
Yeah.
So it's just a really cool, and these are all just people that are out there. These really aren't companies. These are just modelers who are looking to make a couple bucks selling their stuff. So, so anyway, yeah, shapeways.com and go to the marketplace. So that's just kind of, I think that's really kind of cool. And that's this week's. That's this week's workshop tips and tricks. Any questions on any questions on anything?
Boy, I'm telling you, you sure bring a lot to the table. There's no question about it. The information on gateways alone, my gosh, you could spend a few hours going through that.
Can I ask a question for Bob? This is John Mick.
Yes.
Bob, I've been experimenting with NeoPixels. My goal would be to use them in the Arizona State Capitol Museum where they're building a model railroad. I would need 3 feet by maybe 20 feet filled with NeoPixels. And I wondered if you had any experience with the Roscoe kind of diffusers, if you have any recommendations on that. Have you used it before? What can you tell me about that kind of diffusing on top of NeoPixels?
Well, I'm not familiar with NeoPixels, so I'd have to look that up. But in terms of Roscoe, that's a great company. And actually, that's going to be one of our websites that will be. But yeah, they have what you want to look at, not just their sheet diffuser stuff, but go to their cinematic products. Roscoe makes a ton of cinema stuff for cinema, for cinematography, and they have spun stuff. But I'm not familiar with NeoPixels, so I'm going to look that up.
NeoPixels are strips of 3-color LEDs spaced about 1 inch apart on a 1/2 inch wide strip.
Sure.
They typically come with several hundred per strip.
Yeah, we just call them roll lights. So, you know, something that makes a phenomenal. Here's my little tips and tricks, or something for nothing here. A great diffuser is if you ever get microfoam packaging, not bubbled, not mini bubble wrap, but actually it's called microfoam. It's usually about 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's white, and it's very soft, pliable foam. That makes phenomenal diffusers.
Sounds perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
And usually you can find them in a box.
Yeah. My goal is to have a blue sky and in about 2 minutes time, have it convert to a sunset and go dark. But I need to diffuse these things and it needs to be really thin. So that sounds really good.
Yeah, but they will have, like I say, if you go to Roscoe, look at the cinema diffusion stuff. But what you want to look at certainly is the light transmission on them, because some of them will cut transmission quite a bit.
Okay. Is that a parameter of them?
Yes, you'll be able, if you look at the technical stuff, it will give you a light transmission factor.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to drive all these with Arduinos, obviously, so it's easy to control them. I've been experimenting with them. They work great, but I just need to be able to something to diffuse them.
Yeah, yeah.
So it looks like sky.
That's cool. Very cool.
Bob, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Charlie from Chicago. Not to step on what you were just talking about, but I happen to have one of these Roscoe Lux things from about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Just coincidence that you were talking about it. I use it all the time, or at least I make reference to it all the time. Sorry, I don't know if I can see that. But anyway, my question was to you about lighting. I feel like I'm fairly knowledgeable about lighting, but when I get lights home, they're not what I want. And I'm talking big box light stores, daylight, sunlight. I can read the numbers you're talking about, but you know, where do you go if you want to step up your game from Home Depot, Lowe's, or something? Where do you go to get professional lights, or better than big box store lights?
Well, there are several, and what I can do is I will share in the chat. I need to go look a couple up, but there's LED Plus, I think. There's a couple of big suppliers that we use, and I will get those names out.
Okay.
And again, the big thing is consistency. Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, I just had an instance where I bought what was supposed to be a 3000K fixture. And when I plugged it in, it was purple. You know, but we all know where these things are coming from. So
Yeah.
it's
So
But
one more question. With that
there are
said,
sources out there, and there are sources out there for luminaires too, for the actual fixtures. That I will again, I'll share it tonight. As soon as I get off here, I'll get on the web and put a couple of links up into the chat.
one more question, Bob, a follow-up. With the technology that's coming along today, is there any drawback of going with for a new layout, a new space? Is there any drawback of focusing on LEDs as a prime, as all of your light source? Are we missing anything?
Not that I've found. I'm using them everywhere now, in everything. Again, workbench, paint booth, layout. The great thing about them, while they're not totally cool, you know, in terms of temperature, physical temperature, they do generate a little heat, but they generate such a lower level of heat than incandescent or halogen that it's a big difference just in the workspace. But all I've seen is that the outputs are going up, the lumen outputs are going up in LEDs. We happen to have a company here in Syracuse called Ephesus, and we have LED lights in our hockey arena, and they're doing arenas all across the country. And they're small fixtures. They're fixtures that are 1 foot by 9 inches, and they're lighting hockey rinks.
Fantastic.
So the efficiency is going to go up, but I don't see any downside. As long as, you know, what I've done is I try to do everything that works either in a standard track fixture with an Edison threaded base, or, you know, a G8 or G10 base, bayonet base. I've stayed away from the MR16 low voltage, and I only work at line voltage now. I don't work with transformers.
Thank you very much.
So that's just my recommendations, but
Yeah.
I don't know
Bob?
if you could highlight me again, but I have one of these. I see somebody put up, maybe that was Phil who put up the scratch pens. Here's one of them right here. So anyway, yes.
Bob, this is John Mick again. Can you put your email in the chat?
Absolutely.
Bob, I've got a small question about very small lights. I light the interior of my building with surface mount LED. Yep. And the best I can find, if I'm guessing, the light I'm getting out is probably 3,500 degrees, 4,000 is the yellowest I can get. Is it worthwhile trying to take those small LEDs and just give them a coat of yellow translucent color to try to lower the temperature? Like a gel, if you will?
Exactly. And what you can use, what I've used in the past, is you can even just take a dab of like orange shellac. That works great because it's
okay, sure.
You know?
So anything orange or yellow will lower the temperature.
That's right. That's right. But you know, again, you want to look depending on period. So if you're lighting with gas light inside, you know, you want to get it down to that 2000, it's going to be more orangish. If you're lighting with early incandescent, it's going to be more in that auburn, you know, that amber range.
30s and 40s, you want to be down maybe 2,500 degrees.
Probably 2,500, right, exactly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Bob, thank you so much for tonight. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So you have a lot of interest on the subjects that you're dealing with, so that's great.
That's always nice. More interest than I got when I was teaching college, I'll tell you that.
I'll be honest, I wish I had you for a professor.
Yeah. I'll try to get your name right next week.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay, Paul.
All right, now let's go to our next guest. And I'm going to try to pronounce his name correctly. Mark Pogendorf. Mark is a hobby shop owner and does our local hobby shop segment for us. And Mark, welcome. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I think you're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes. Sir.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, we've had kind of a bad run of luck getting some guests on to interview as far as shop owners. We've had a couple that have had COVID. One of the shops that I was going to have on tonight is actually announced a few days ago. They're closing down. So they're going out of business, which is very unfortunate. They just can't make a go of it, apparently. So, you know, kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. Now, I'm also on the road. I'm actually at my in-laws' house tonight, and I've been doing a couple of train shows. I'm in Washington right now. I just did the train show in Boise, and I have 2 ahead of me in Washington, and these are back-to-back weekends. Then I go to Sacramento, then Southern California, then Utah, Denver. The one thing that is kind of baffling me, I'm seeing a serious uptick in sales at train shows. We've done phenomenal the last few shows we've done. We've got a tremendous amount of young people coming into the shows. And the one thing that, you know, I'm going to say to all these retail stores that seem to kind of have a woe is me attitude right now post-Christmas is that they need to get out there to these shows and represent themselves and have a booth like we do. Because we get follow-up calls consistently once we've attended a show and I've talked to customers. They're calling our store and placing orders. And we've developed that relationship at the show. They now they know who we are. They put a face to a name, and it has been a great source of increasing our business and our placement of our business in the public's eye. And I've talked to a few stores trying to get them on board, and I get excuses like their competition. That I don't want to go to a store because I don't want to compete with people, or I mean a show, excuse me. And I don't understand that line of thinking at all, because I started doing shows a few months after I opened back in 2009, and it has done nothing but grow my business. And then the other side of the coin that I'm seeing with these, the reason I didn't get another store to come on tonight was 2 of his employees just didn't show up. So he couldn't spend the time to come in and be on the show. So we're seeing some kind of strange things out there right now. I know the inflation's affecting people. I know staffing is short, but it would seem to me that just like me as a retail store, I'm getting out here beating the pavement, and it's paying off for me. So it's not a lack of customers. It's not a lack of desire to buy things. I think some of these store owners are, I hate to say it, getting a little lazy. So,
well, you know, one of the things that I pick up from hearing you talk, as well as from hearing Scott talk to Phil a few minutes ago, it's that personal contact, and bringing that personal contact then back to your store, whether it's by telephone or however it is, but that personal contact at the show seems to make all the difference. That's when people are either buying into who Mark is and what Mark is doing for them, or not. And that's kind of what I got from what Scott was saying about how he's attracting NMRA people to join his division.
yeah, Scott's a great guy. I know him, by the way, and he is a great guy. And they put on one heck of a show down there. And I've actually done that show before, and it was phenomenal for us. And I'd love to get back there. But yeah, that personal touch, I'm just not understanding it. And trying to get some of these people. And I've actually had a few stores say, I don't have the time, I don't want to be bothered. Then I had another store that told me, well, I don't deal with Zoom. I don't know how to do it. I just can't. And it just seems like they're selling themselves short, or they're getting lazy. But Scott is very right. The personal touch, we've already had, my wife says we've already had she's still down at the store until tomorrow. She's flying up here. But she says she has already had 17 calls from the Boise show that has totaled quite a multi-$1,000s in sales after I was at that show. So guys who own retail stores, if you're listening, you need to get off your butts and get out to these shows and support the hobby. Mention the NMRA, mention the different organizations that you're part of. Seek them out. And I think it would greatly help the business, because if not, I see a lot more stores going down, unfortunately. We're getting in, our cost of goods are increasing. Some of our products are getting harder to get. And that's why I personally have switched. A lot of my products now are pre-owned and vintage. And people are ecstatic. Like at the show, people are gobbling up stuff. I haven't seen this in 10 years. I've been looking for it. And they're happy and they're coming back. And then they're calling me, placing a new pre-order for something from either Walthers or something like that. Or they're looking for more of the vintage stuff. So I think that is paramount in keeping these brick and mortars above the wall without sinking.
Mark, why do you think you're having trouble getting inventory or product?
Well, a lot of it's the supply chain. I call it the COVID excuse. We're still using that. It's just like FlexTrack. It's one of the staples. Everybody wants to, they love the new brass locomotive or the new latest and greatest from the different manufacturers like Broadway Limited or what have you. But when you don't have any track to run it on, it's kind of difficult. Another thing that I want to share with everybody is cork. I recently had a conversation with the vice president of Midwest Cork, and I asked, why can we not get any cork in the United States? So I believe her name was Tracy. She told me that, she says, well, here's the problem, and this is right from the horse's mouth. They are getting their cork offshore now, but they are cutting it still at their facility in the United States. She said the entire container of cork looked like Swiss cheese. They physically couldn't cut it on their machines, and they couldn't sell it because it was in such poor condition. She says every time we call, they say, oh, we're shipping it out, it's on the water. She's getting excuse after excuse. So her words to me exactly were, we have no idea when we're going to get cork or if we're going to get cork. It's a huge part of our business at Midwest Cork, but we cannot give our customers a straight answer. So, because I wanted something to tell my customers, because they're coming in the store getting owly with me that they can't get cork. They're complaining, they go on the internet, nobody has cork. So that's one huge thing, because everybody likes to put cork under track. And there are a couple of alternatives out there that are foam based, and in all honesty, a couple of them are not that great, and they tend to fail. The scenery doesn't stick to them and so forth. So I don't even carry those products in my store. So right now I'm without cork, and I'll get a couple of boxes of Atlas FlexTrack in or something like that, and it's gone in a day. So that's one of the major things we're seeing. The pre-orders of rolling stock from the manufacturers, that seems to be pretty good when it shows up. But again, there's a lot of basic stuff that we're getting back ordered. And yeah, I see somebody, the wine industry, because I'm in the wine country. Santa Rosa Roanoke Park is right in the heart of the wine country. I've actually approached one of the guys who I know, actually went to high school with, who makes corks for wine bottles. And I asked him, because they use a silicone cork now, because they're having problems getting cork, the raw cork, to do the wine bottles. So he took a piece of cork that I had, and he looked at it, and he talked to his powers that be there and other people. And they said basically what they would have to do is they would have to make a mold, because all of the corks that you're getting now in a lot of these bottles, they're not cut, they're molded. So you would have to have somebody machine a mold and pour this silicone cork product in there. And so it's like casting. So that's quite costly. And Tracy at Midwest Cork also mentioned that she had tried that avenue, and she said it's just way too costly to produce. So we're kind of at a big loss right now without having cork. And as you know, Homosote's very hard to find. Like in the state of California, it's almost impossible to go into any home supply store and buy a 4x8 sheet of Homosote anymore. Now, when I'm traveling out of state, like I just went to the Midwest to Nebraska, I can get all the Homosote I want, but I can't even buy it in California. They have this other ergonomically tree hugger friendly cork, or soundboard that literally, the second you run it through the saw, it explodes. I actually tried a piece of it, and it's a joke. It's like wadded up newspaper with a little bit of Elmer's child glue, and it's a terrible product. So
well, this may be a stupid question, but we didn't have any trouble getting cork before COVID. Why are we having such trouble getting cork after COVID?
That was Tracy at Midwest told me. She goes, I don't understand it. She says, we had no issues prior, and now all of a sudden, and then what they're sending her, she said it was so disheartening for them as a company to open a 40-foot container, and they opened every single box of the bulk cork that they received, and she said it looked like Swiss cheese. She said what they sent us was so poor quality that we could not even salvage any of it. And they're trying to find other sources because, as you know, Midwest products, that's a huge revenue stream for them. So to lose that, it's really bothering them. And Midwest Cork was absorbed into another company about 3 years ago. So they're part of a larger group now, but they're still hurting with this lack of cork and not being able to satisfy all the people that ordered. She said, we have millions of linear feet of cork on back order. I have a pallet of cork on back order with Midwest Cork, and I have no idea when I'm going to receive it.
What about your distributors? You having trouble getting product from your distributors?
Yes, because they're having problems getting product from manufacturers. Our back order rates are increasing. I'll pick on Woodland Scenics. I have a love-hate relationship with them, to be honest with you. That company, we have a lot of missing products and slow to get product. And I don't know why. A lot of it's supposed to be made in-house, but we're noticing problems with them. The Atlas can produce rolling stock, and it seems like they're producing O-scale. They're revitalizing the MTH line and so forth, but we're having serious shortages in track turnouts, both in code 83 and code 100. So yeah, the distributors can't get some of these products, or if they get some in, you've got to be Johnny on the spot as a dealer to place your order. You better have that order in ahead of time, so that the second something shows up, it's out the door. A couple other companies that are having problems just due to supply, like NCE, North Coast Engineering, real good people there. I know them well, and they've only got like 2.5 people working there. The same with KD. Alan and his wife, and there's one lady there who only works part-time. There's basically 2.5 people running the entire company of KD right now because they can't get any help, and they're willing to pay good money. It's just like with COVID, all these people, I guess aliens came down and took all these workers away and never aren't bringing them back. They're with cattle somewhere. So we're seeing that as another problem, and they're trying, and these guys are, they're pulling their hair out. I know they're losing sleep, and their hands are just so tied. But it really hit me because just before I left for Boise, Idaho, I called because I'd had another customer come in who was pretty irate. He's trying to build a 3,000 square foot layout, and he needs cork, and he was pretty upset that nobody had. He wasn't mad at me. He's just upset in general and venting. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to call the company and find out what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that's what I got from an answer right from them. So it's not their fault. It's not that they're just being lazy and can't produce. They said, we have the help and we have the tools. We just can't get the cork.
Well, you know what this sounds like to me is prices are going to go up. And if you see it, you better buy it right then.
Yep. There was a guy at the train show in Boise. He walked over to my booth and he goes, do you have any cork? And I said, no. And I said, oh, you got a box? Yeah. He goes, I just paid $75 for this box of cork. But the last box I got on the last shipment from Midwest Cork, it used to be $29, $30 a box. The last one, I had to sell that box for $53. The last boxes that I received from Midwest in the HO Cork. That's how much the price went up. Atlas Flex Track used to be $5.50 a stick. Now a list price is $8.39 a stick. So when you start seeing those kind of numbers, and I'm also Micro Engineering, I just placed a big order with them, but I don't even know what the price is going to be of the track.
Well, I assume Katie's going to go up. I assume the standard kits are going to go up. Everything is going to go up in price significantly.
Yeah, KD's already had a price increase. They had I think as much as some products had to go up 22% at the beginning of the year. So we've seen all their bulk packs and a lot of things, and they're limiting. Right now, as a dealer, I can only order one bulk pack of each part number per order because they don't want any of the dealers to get way ahead because they don't have the manpower to put them together.
Well, it's funny. I talk to manufacturers and they tell me that their business is off and significantly off. And they talk about the recession and they talk about the inflation and so forth. And you combine that. And these are small manufacturers. These are not, Lionel, that kind of thing, or Bach.
Right.
But you combine that with the kind of information you're giving out, and it seems like our hobby is going to be in a real supply mess here. If not already, it certainly seems like it's heading in that direction to me.
I think it's already here. And what was it? Coaldale Brook Train Store. That's the one who had, he's closing his doors. In fact, he had an announcement on Facebook yesterday. It was a nice store, and I wanted to have them on the show. Nice people, and they're done. But you just mentioned Lionel. I pre-ordered. Okay, now here's the other thing as far as a store owner. I had to get my Christmas pre-orders in by February 10th of 2022 so that I would hopefully get that product in time for Christmas. I ordered 24 of the CW80 power supplies. Okay, the transformers, the common Lionel transformer. I got 3. Instead of getting a case of 24, I got 3. Well, it's like the second week in November, those were gone. And so fortunately for me, I had a person in Santa Rosa that was a Lionel repair certified guy. So he restored some vintage power supplies for me so I could have something to sell my customers. And now he's retired at the end of the year because Lionel is another company that they've discontinued all of their United States based repair centers. So they recalled everybody. So now there is no repair center in the United States other than you have to send it back to North Carolina, and then they will assess it. So all these factory trained guys are now out of business. So my guy decided, you know what, I can't get parts. They're not supporting us anymore. He's 67 years old. He said, heck with it, I'm done. So we're seeing that happen.
You know, for the long-term benefit of the hobby, these kind of decisions just don't make sense to me.
They don't at all. Lionel has had factory authorized service centers around the United States for decades. And you can see when you pull up a vintage Lionel piece, you'll open the back and there's a flyer in there with all these authorized service centers. Well, now as a retailer, if I sell anything from Lionel, I have to send it back to North Carolina and hope they have parts. And a lot of the newer Lionel stuff, like the Legacy, they don't have the boards to replace them when they're bad. So you have another supply chain issue. So now I almost cringe sometimes when I sell something brand new that's got all the electronics in it, hoping everything's going to work and I'm not going to have a customer come back and say, oh, it's defective. And now we got to go down that road.
Well, particularly when you look at some of the prices of almost $2,000 for some of these engines in Legacy for Lionel. I mean, this is not a $100 model. This is very serious money that people are shelling out for these models, not to be able to get something that's first class.
That is very true. And unfortunately, we've seen some of the certain ones of the Legacy locomotives have defective boards and we can't get them. And another one that I'm constantly getting a gripe at as a retailer is a lot of the MTH, the Proto 2 and Proto Sound 3s. There are no parts available for those. So as a purchaser of pre-owned stuff, all of the people that I know and myself, we are politely declining to purchase anything MTH because we can't get the parts to fix them. And if the battery leaks, the board's fried. So you've just got this compound issue which was kind of funny. I was joking with my wife that our old Athearn Blue Box sales have increased tremendously over the holidays because those things are as simple as they come. They're built like a tank.
And they work.
They work. And you can put DCC in them. So you got something simple. Yeah, they work. They're super simple. They work. So yeah, we've and at this show, again, it was another thing where I sold probably 60% of the products that I sold at this show were pre-owned. And I took a lot of new product too, but people are gobbling up what they know works and what they can't find on the market.
Gotcha. Anybody have any other questions for Mark?
Mark, it's Pat here.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
The problem with cork right now, can it be replaced with that rolled foam you use for insulating on foundations?
I've used camper tape, to be honest with you, on an N scale layout that I built, and that worked pretty decent. I think that's kind of where we're going. The one product that's made by the one company is black. That's the one I was complaining about. I've tried that, and literally you look at it and the scenery just pops back off. It's got some kind of a sheen to it that glue just does not stick to.
You probably have to sand it a little bit and then see if it'll stick.
Yeah, I never tried that, and it is so soft. You can actually when you put that down and then put the track on top of it, you can
Yeah,
actually push
squishes
down to the
down.
track. It really moves easy. And so
Yeah.
it's got a lot of flexibility to it. And I think it's
Unless you
too
double
much.
up on it or something.
Yeah, but I've used the gray camper shell tape. I
Yeah.
saw an article years ago, model railroad, and I used that on an N-scale layout, and it worked great.
I guess we've
So-
got to get inventive.
That's it. And that's why I'm putting this out there, because I know somebody's going to come up with some idea that's going to go, aha.
Foam
There is a
core board
company.
would work.
Yeah, HomaBed is still around, at least on the internet.
Yes.
I Googled them.
Yep.
But that tends to be pricey per foot.
Yeah, this is John Mick. I made my own cork from the rolls from Home Depot. They're 50 foot by 48 inches wide. I used the Harbor Freight thing and cut them. I think it was 7/8 of an inch strips.
Oh
I
yeah.
made a little fixture and took my router and put the edge on them. Worked
How
great.
far back did that go?
Huh?
How far back was it you bought that?
Probably a year ago, maybe a little more. But I
Yeah, 'cause
bought
I
it
was in-
twice. I bought it twice along the way. I'm on my second roll using it for other stuff. Put a big wide strip down for the yard, and I glue it down with the stuff they recommend. It's supposed to go under boards, in your house. And I
Yep.
used the glue that they recommend for that cork to glue it down. Works great. No problems at all.
Yeah, I just went into Home Depot in Chehalis, Washington today, and they were out of the cork underlayment for floors. The guy there told me they haven't had any for about 6 months.
Yep, that's what I used. It's the cork underlay.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I saw some on Amazon, but it said pre-order. I was looking because I Googled it last night, alternatives for cork, and that came up. And there was an article about a guy who took a roll of it and cut it on his chop saw. And okay, so I was down there today, and I went in there and looking around, and nope.
Yeah.
Back
Routing
over.
the edge on it worked great once you get a fixture set up.
Yeah,
No
yeah, I
problem.
can see it being great.
Oh,
So
yeah.
hopefully something will break loose here, but no, she said that it's just a problem with the quality of the cork, and she was unaware, the lady at Midwest, if it was a disease. She wasn't getting clear answers as to why the cork was showing up the way it was, and so she says, I honestly cannot give any. And I said, okay, I'll pass this on to people, because everybody is questioning why this is happening. So that is right from the VP of Midwest, right out of her mouth.
Well, Mark, you haven't given us very good news, but I want to thank you so much for doing this segment on the show. I think it's important for everybody to understand what the hobby shop owner is facing, the challenges that they have, and where the hobby is going here from the standpoint of the hobby shop owners. So thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. No, we'll be back again next month, and I do have a guarantee confirmed. The gentleman is for next month. He's going to have his wife watch the store, because he Googled it when I talked to him and was really excited about coming on and giving his opinion about what's going on in the hobby. So I think the holidays also kind of hurt some of this. I think people were just burned out.
Yeah, I can understand. Well, listen, you have a great year. Most happy to you, and
Same to you, Jim.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
We'll talk to you real soon.
Yes, sir. Well, now I've got another modeler that I want you to meet that I'm really impressed with, Philip Cruz. Philip Cruz Miniatures is the company that he has, and I've seen some of his models, and I'm really impressed. So, Philip, welcome. Philip?
I don't think he's here.
Okay.
I sent him an email and I didn't get a response.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened to Philip. I talked to him earlier today, and he was enthusiastic about being here. So he may have had a problem of some kind. So we'll see if he can't join us next week. But that'll have to be our show for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Most importantly, I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And we'd like to close it with a short caboose for you. Thanks again. It's been a real pleasure to see you this evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe so that you'll get the login links each week and be able to join us on Zoom. Or if you prefer, hope you'll go to our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling, and subscribe there and ring the bell. And you'll get notices of all of our shows. Some of our shows, the ones that we do on Thursday for our modeling lifestyle, you can only see on YouTube. And we don't have a Zoom capability for those shows. And I hope you'll also look at some of our previous shows and the videos of them on our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. Thanks again for being here this evening. See you next week. Happy modeling.